Hello. Did you do any socialising this weekend? Did you have a nice weekend? I managed to get out for a couple of pints with my mates. We're all of a similar age, we all have similar interests. We like beer. We like to talk about football. Who's going to get promoted, who's going to get relegated. We talked about rugby. We got on to politics, not much. That's just too depressing a subject. Health issues, who's on what medication, who's expecting what operation. But we also got on to gardening because there are a few keen gardeners among us. And as I've said, we're all of a similar age, and I think between us we could probably clock up more than 100 years of gardening between us, easily. So I was in the company of some experienced gardeners. When you're with gardeners, you want to know what they're doing, whatever time of year it is. Well, we're at that time of year here in the United Kingdom that we're planting things. So we talked about who had planted what. And then we got on to tomatoes. And I asked the guys what they were growing, what varieties they were growing this year. And a couple of them are traditionalists, grow the same variety in the same way every year. Maximum maybe 2 varieties. I tend to like an experiment. I'll go with anything, I'll try anything. But they stick to that tried and tested formula. And hey, that's okay, that's okay. So they told me the varieties that grow. And then I said to them, wait for it, then I said to them, are your tomatoes determinate or indeterminate? Well, they looked at me as though I had 2 heads. Determinate, indeterminate, what's that? Well, I popped up a video some time ago about this subject, and I think I've already said that here in the UK, determinate and indeterminate is something that's rarely discussed. And in fact, these 2 experienced gardeners had never heard of it. And as I've already pointed out, on the packets of seeds that we buy in the UK, determinate and indeterminate doesn't get a mention. So I explained to them what I thought determinate and indeterminate meant. And remember, I just educated myself from YouTube videos. That's it. These 2 mates of mine never go on YouTube. They would never hear the expression determinate and indeterminate until I used it. So I explained to them what it was, and the pair of them said to me, no, we grow a single stem, we take out all the side shoots, we support with a cane, we grow until the tomato plant reaches probably the underside of the greenhouse roof, then we pinch it out. That's how we grow tomatoes. Well, I've got to admit, that's how I've always grown tomatoes. Check out this video I'm going to cut you to now. This is a video that I posted, might have been last year, just 3 different varieties, 3 different shapes, 3 different sizes. Check that out, then come back to me, because I want to read this to you that I've got off the internet. Watch that, then come back to me. Hello. If you're new to gardening, if you're new to growing tomatoes, this short video might be helpful. Here at Homegrown Veg in the United Kingdom, we're harvesting tomatoes now from my 8-foot by 6-foot greenhouse. These are some of the tomatoes I've grown. I think I've grown 5 varieties this year, and this is 3 of the varieties I've grown. And as you can see, there is a big difference between what a tomato plant can deliver depending on the variety. Let's go through them, let's identify them. This is your standard size I guess, shop bought tomato. This is a tomato called Shirley. This is a bigger than usual tomato, although you do get them sometimes being sold in shops. This is a tomato called Heinz 1350. It's a beefsteak variety. And these are a tomato called Sun Gold. Sun Gold is a cherry type tomato, and as you can see, much smaller than the other two tomatoes. So you can go cherry type tomato, beefsteak tomato, or your standard size tomato. That's your choice. I think, I'm not too sure there's much more after that. Right, what I want to do is I want to compare what you're likely to get from your tomato plant. Let's pop this guy on the scales. Heinz 1350, one tomato. And for argument's sake, let's call that a pound. Now you're likely to get on each of your trusses of Heinz 1350 no more than 2 of those tomatoes. You may set more flowers, but they usually fail to produce a tomato, so you usually get 2. And if you get, say, 5 trusses, then you get 10 tomatoes from one plant, but they could all be a pound in weight. Right, standard size shop tomatoes, how many? How many do you reckon would give us a pound of tomatoes? You want a quick guess? Right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, one more, 6. 6 standard size tomatoes will give us a pound of tomatoes. And you could get 6 on a truss, you could get 8 on a truss, you could get 10 on a truss. You pays your money, you take your choice. So that's Shirley. Right, let's go to the cherry type tomatoes. Now these, if I describe these as being prolific, it's possibly an understatement, because the number of fruit you get on a truss is unbelievable. I mean, it could be 20, 30, it could be anything. You're going to need to take me on trust here, but there are 30 small cherry tomatoes in this bowl. This variety is Sun Gold. Okay, Sun Gold, the cherry tomato. That's 30 on the scales. Now if you have a mind to count these and add them to that, that's how many tomatoes you get to a pound of Sun Gold. And I've got to tell you, these are the nicest tasting tomatoes I've ever tasted. They really are Sun Gold. Okay, will this take us to that pound? Let's see. Yeah, we're happy with that. So, that's got to be over 50 tomatoes there, Sun Gold, to make 1 pound of tomatoes. But if you're getting, 20 or 30 tomatoes on a truss, you're going to get a lot of tomatoes. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. I've enjoyed making it. It's your choice now. If you're going to grow tomatoes, you can go with the standard size Shirley, you can go with beefsteak, you can go with those Sun Gold cherry type tomatoes. It's entirely up to you. If you've enjoyed the video, a thumbs up would be nice. If you're not a subscriber, why not? Just hit that subscribe button. This is Homegrown Veg, signing out. Okay, so you saw the 3 varieties I was growing. Now Now let me read you this as I promised. Introduced in 1963 by H.J. Heinz Co. The Heinz 1350 variety delivers a high yield of uniform, bright red, 3-inch fruits which are perfect in salads or for sauces, which they were originally grown for. A robust variety delivering heavy-leaved plants with good disease and crack resistance. A good performer in lighter, sandy soils and dry locations. Determinate. Determinate tomatoes, or bush tomatoes, are varieties that grow to a compact height. Determinates stop growing when fruit sets on the top bud. All the tomatoes from the plant ripen at approximately the same time, usually over a period of 1 to 2 weeks. They require a limited amount of staking for support and are perfectly suited for container planting. Okay, so there we have it. There we have it. That tells us, that's a definition of a determinate, if you like, as opposed to an indeterminate. Now this is the interesting part. The variety that I looked for on the internet to check out its pedigree, if you like, was the Heinz 1350, because it was one I grew. You just saw it in that video. Now the internet tells me Heinz 1350 is a determinate. Well, it's a bit late now, because I grew it as an indeterminate. I didn't know it was a determinate. Packet didn't say it was a determinate. So I grew it as an indeterminate, single stem, right up the underside of the greenhouse roof, pinched the tip out, all the side shoots, all the suckers had been removed. And did you see the size of that tomato it produced? I mean, it filled my hand. And there was quite a few of those on the plant, not as many as the smaller varieties, but boy, that was a big tomato, wasn't it? And I got quite a few like that. And to all intents and purposes, I'd grown it the wrong way. Yeah, I'd grown it the wrong way. That tomato was a pound in weight, and there were several tomatoes on the plant that were half a pound, 3/4 of a pound in weight. From recollection, yeah, there were. So anyway, we are where we are. I've kicked this year off now. I've got the tomatoes in the greenhouse that I intend growing this year, most of which are indeterminate, but I'm going to squeeze in some determinates. Probably overload the greenhouse, but I like an experiment, I like a challenge, I like to try new things. So we're going to go with 1 or 2 determinates squeezed in among the indeterminates this year. Hey, stick with me, you'll see that attempt, you'll see how it turns out. Okay, hope you enjoyed the video. This is Homegrown Veg, signing out.